Hey guys, today we're taking a look at my Gimmick Puppet deck. Now before I get into this deck, I just want to make this clear. So this archetype has a lot of OCG cards, so I only do TCG decks, so this is only a TCG version of this current deck. When, all the other OCG cards out, this deck will be a lot more interesting and have a lot more to it. I still think it's really cool and fun right now, but again, when more cards come out, it's going to get really interesting. So Gimmick Puppets are a machine deck, but more than that, they're a deck that focuses on 8-star XYZs. They really try to bring out those XYZs and really punish the opponent by doing some burn damage in addition to that. It's a really cool archetype and really takes advantage of a lot of the other machine support that goes with it. So first off, we have 3 Gimmick Puppet Egghead. Very important. One of the few Gimmick Puppets that actually has decent attack, 1600. It's not amazing, but still decent. And you can make them level 8, or you can do damage, which is really nice, and you can load the graveyard. Then Gimmick Puppet Gear Changer, just use this. Some of these cards really remind me of the Gagagas, so this one just allows you to alter its level by choosing a Gimmick Puppet. So obviously that right there gives you access pretty easily to 8-star XYZs. And then we have Gimmick Puppet Scissor Arms, so this one's used to send Gimmick Puppets to the graveyard, which just works really well with how this deck operates. And then Gimmick Puppet Twilight Joker, so this one's interesting. This one gets special summoned when a Gimmick Puppet gets destroyed by battle. So very powerful, very easy way to get an 8-star, so you can set up those quick XYZs. Gimmick Puppet Nightmare is another really interesting one. So this one we have to tribute a face-up XYZ monster, which is a bit much, but if you run out of materials and things are not looking that good, it can be useful to bring this out and get out other XYZs. What's interesting about this is that if you have another Gimmick Puppet Nightmare that's in your hand or graveyard, you can bring out another one. So that's why I'm running 2. That allows you to kind of replace your XYZs, and it's a really interesting card that you can use to kind of change things around. I mean, it's also worth noting that using this card you can get around a lot of the things that might happen to your cards, like if they get their effect negated or Fiendish Chained or something, that could be really good use for this. Then we have 2 Gearspring Spirits, so I just think this is a great card in this deck. Just easily special summon him out, do its effect to lower the opponent's attack, and get out an 8-star XYZ. Really good. Then we have the Machinas. Specific Machina support for this deck, so Gearframe is used to get Cannon. Gives you access to 4-star XYZs, and 1 beater you actually have in this deck. Machina Cannon, amazing in this deck. You can use it to get your Gimmick Puppets to the graveyard, to special summon an 8-star machine, which just works so well with how the deck works. All this stuff together leads into very big, powerful plays. So now for the spells, Forbidden Lance to protect your XYZ monsters, and then Puppet Ritual, an interesting card. So you have to have lower life points than your opponent, and then you can basically special summon 8-star Gimmick Puppets, allowing you to bring out some XYZs very nicely. XYZ Burst, so this card's pretty crazy. You can basically wipe your opponent out for set cards. So basically put your opponent on defense, bring out an 8-star XYZ, or maybe you already have one, and then wipe your opponent out. Sets up OTK, sets up very big, powerful plays. That Dark Hole, Book of Moon, MST. So we have 2 cards for draw power, Allure of Darkness and Trade-In. Allure is kind of a choice because it's not exactly a dark deck. It's kind of a half dark, half earth deck, but I think it's working really well for me. Trade-In is also another good choice for this deck because you have a good amount of 8-stars, and a lot of them can benefit from being in the graveyard. Then Limiter Removal, obviously, for a machine deck. And then mostly stable traps, not too much to say there. Still thinking about what I'm currently doing with the traps. I might add in Fiendish Chain or something. When I talk about the side deck, I'm going to talk about the tons and tons of cards I wanted to put into this deck. So we'll see about that. So now for the extra deck, obviously very important with this type of deck. A few 4-star XYZs, 2 Gear Gigant. You definitely don't want to use very many non-machines because you're using a card like Gearspring Spirit. Maestroke, Gagaga Cowboy, Exciton Knight, just situational ones that you might use. Then the Gimmick Puppet XYZs. Obviously very powerful effects that kind of punish your opponent for having face-up monsters, which is really annoying for them to deal with. And then Gimmick Puppet Leo, he's the instant win, Gimmick Puppet. You can build a deck about him. That's not what my deck is. It just has him here if you want to go for that, and he's still a very strong monster. So it's up to you. Then we also have Googly-Eyes, Drum Dragon, just a thing you can do to have a powerful machine-type monster. A few of the other 8-star XYZs, Tachyon, Zombiestein with some dark monsters you have, and the staples, you know, Hieratic and Felgrand. So for the side deck, again, side decks in my videos are just recommended cards. They're not necessarily a side deck for matches. You know, if you're thinking about building this type of deck, these are some of the cards you might think about using. There are so many cards that I wanted to use in this deck, so I'll talk about them a little bit after I go through these ones. So Machina Fortress, very easy to bring out with this deck, but the problem is this deck doesn't benefit from 7-star XYZ or 7-star monsters. So it's a good card overall and can lead to, you know, powerful plays. It's another way to build the deck, but it'll get away from kind of the XYZ style of this deck. Dark Arm Dragon, if you're running, you know, a decent amount of darks, mine's more of a mix, but still can be useful. Again, mine's a full machine deck, so that's one of the reasons I'm not running a card like this. Armageddon Knight, Dark Grepher, both used obviously for getting darks to the graveyard. Black Salvo is an interesting card to set up plays, you know, bring out monsters you need. It can be used for synchros obviously, but I'm not running synchros in this deck. Mystic Tomato can be really good in this type of deck, obviously. Shredder's a really interesting one, allows you to, you know, really wreck your opponent because you have so many high-leveled machine-type monsters in your hand. So that's an interesting choice. Again, if you're running, you know, a good amount of dark 4-stars, you can run Master Key Beetle. There's a lot of spell support you can use for this type of deck. Iron Call can be very useful. XYZ Energy, a lot of the XYZ supports, XYZ Gift, XYZ Territory, all really good cards for this deck. There's a bunch, you can put in more trade-ins, you can put in Pot of Duality, you can put in some different draw power. You can put in Solidarity. In my deck, I'm running all machines, so Solidarity can be very useful for making your other gimmick puppets not so weak. Again, there's more XYZ support. There's a ton more machine support. There's a ton more XYZs you can run. There's so many things you could do with this deck, and I'm definitely interested to seeing what you guys can come up with. But that's my gimmick puppet deck. Again, if you have more things that you want to see in this deck, if you have your own gimmick puppet deck, post below. Let me know in the comments. Talk about what cards you use for my deck. But that's it for me. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you later.